It's no secret that the population of the game has been dwindling. It peaked with the release of members content on March 29th, reaching around 2,100 concurrent players, but since then the average online player count has just been going down and down. It was always bound to happen, as the main focus of the project is development, not necessarily to build a player base on the live servers. They've said many times they're not going to sacrifice authenticity and rush development in order to appease a player base, and I hope they continue with that mindset, because otherwise it's a never-ending losing battle trying to hold on to players. I don't know if this is the intention, but from my perspective, the benefit of the live servers, besides of course for sharing their project with the world, is that it's a way to bring new developers and contributors into the project. And there's pros and cons of a dwindling player base. The negative side is that there's going to be less and less people contributing to the project, because the more people that play, on average, the more contributors there will be. And when there's a lot of people playing, it can be like a snowball effect, you know, like if every person tells 2 friends about it, eventually every person that would be interested in playing will have played and been a part of this. Now, the positive side of a dwindling player base is that when there's less players and less hype around it, the server would, I would hope, theoretically, be less of a priority for Jagex to take action towards shutting it down. And when I say shut it down, I'm talking about the live servers. I don't know if they would attempt to shut down the development Discord, but even if that's also something they could and would do, you can't stop people from collaborating. You know, there's always going to be some form of open source messaging program for developers to communicate. The only thing that would do would slow down and disorganize the progress, but it won't stop the project. I know most osrs players don't care about this game, or the vast majority probably don't even know about it, but still, the development Discord has almost 10,000 people, and it wouldn't be the best PR look for Jagex. At the very least, they can't delete the code from existence. At this point, so many people have it downloaded and running on their computers, they can't go to everyone's house and force them to delete it. And if in some alternate universe that was something they tried to do, I'm sure the Streisand effect would apply and not work out in their favor anyways. But yeah, less players means theoretically lower chance of the server being taken down. And if the server isn't shut down, then whenever they do complete development of some of the more hype updates in the future, like Slayer, Barrows, and so on, that hype will draw a lot of people in again, and it'll probably be far enough in the future where new people will discover the server that aren't around right now to hear about it. What I think is most likely to happen is maybe the game will lay low for a while over the next couple years while they complete 2004, maybe have a core player base of a few thousand people, not concurrent players, but total active players, before seeing another explosion again when they start completing 2005 content. And every time there's a surge of players, that should bring in new contributors, which in turn will speed up development of the project, or at least it'll be faster than it would have been without them. And they're going to need it too, because the further they get in the timeline of RuneScape, the more and more difficult it's going to be to recreate, especially after May 16th, 2006. I've said this a few times throughout the series, but it's important, so I'm going to say it again, especially for the new viewers. Jagex only started backing up RuneScape around 2012. I believe the only backup they had, by pure luck, was August 2007, which is where old school RuneScape originated from. A lot of caches have been recovered from people's old hard drives, although many are still missing. But those caches are client-side stuff like interfaces, map data, and assets. They don't actually include how everything in the game interacts. The Lost City project has had to build their own engine from scratch to handle core interactions, with a cumulative tens of thousands of hours spent researching sources and developing scripts to build up the game from almost nothing. And as a reminder, the RuneScape Archive project, whose goal is to archive RuneScape's caches, is completely unaffiliated with this project, Lost City. But yeah, unfortunately, most points in RuneScape history have been lost to time, and many assumptions have to be made when recreating the game due to the lack of information. When you consider decades from now, I imagine it'll only get harder and harder to recreate as time goes on, due to things like sources becoming more difficult to find, old info getting erased from the internet, old hard drives become more rare, and there will be less and less people that played during that era to give their accounts of what they remember. The goal of the Lost City project is recreating the years of RuneScape that have been lost and preserving it for future generations to experience. RuneScape is a significant piece of culture that was a huge part of the formative years for so many people of our generation. And if anyone from Jagex ever sees this video, just please know that this project is a love letter to RuneScape. I don't think the live servers of this project are really meant to be a thing that people put hundreds of hours into grinding. Of course, there always will be a few people that play it that way, but in my eyes, this is like when Jagex hosted RuneScape Classic up until 2018 when they shut it down. Very, very few people grinded on that game while it was still live, but a lot of people tried it out just to experience what it was like. And I see the Lost City servers the same way. I hope it's going to be something that will always be there for people to try out. After Jagex shut down Classic, there's been open source servers that have popped up. I don't think the server wants me naming them in my videos, but just to show you what I mean, there's not a huge player base on them. It's probably a few core players and then maybe the occasional person that finds the server and tries it out for a few days just to experience the history of RuneScape. That's what I hope these live servers turn into. Not everything has to be a hype rush to get the next update out or push people to compete for high scores or wealth in-game. It's something that I hope can always be there in the background, slowly working and progressing to recreate, document, and preserve those lost years. In the live servers that they're hosting, you do have to grind to get to experience all the content in the game, but because the project is open source, you can download and run the code yourself. And from there, you have access to all the tools to adjust your stats, spawn items, teleport wherever, and so on, to give you complete access to experience whatever you want at that point in RuneScape history. If you couldn't tell already, this is the final video I plan to make on osrscape. I've shown the process of training up every skill, and I'm at the point where I've unlocked what you could consider the final training methods for each skill, where if I were to continue to play, it would be doing all the methods I've already shown, but doing them all the way to 99. And I don't see a point to doing that. It doesn't really add anything to the series of comparing old school RuneScape to what the game was like in 04, especially because the rate at which I'm discovering things has drastically slowed down. You may have noticed over the last few videos, I've been playing more and more like Iron Man style, which is because there's less people playing and it's hard to find offers on the marketplace now for things that you need at any given time. That's completely irrelevant though as to why I'm stopping my progress here. In fact, you could say that it would even be beneficial for the series that I've been playing Iron Man style because I learned more about the game since it forces me to do content I wouldn't otherwise do because I could just buy the stuff from other players. But I just find it interesting how the balance of the live game has shifted from an economy-based game to more of an Iron Man style. It's like a spectrum where on one side you have Iron Man where you can't trade and you have to do everything yourself, versus the other side's extreme would be an economy with a GE where you have access to any item at any time even while you're offline, and you have a way to liquidate any item you have at any time. Everyone has their preferences of where they would enjoy the game the most on that spectrum, but you don't really have a choice, you know. With less players, the game naturally has shifted to a more Iron Man playstyle, and maybe you will have to start picking your own flax and filling your own vials. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and to be fair, it's a more realistic experience because that's how most of us played in 2004. Most of us were young, naive kids who lacked self-awareness and social skills to get seriously involved in buying and selling supplies, and a lot of us did things ourselves, or even just traded within our own little friend groups with the other kids from school, like a group Iron Man in a way. But yeah, my account is pretty close to the point where I would just be grinding out each skill to 99 using the methods I've already shown, like the wildy cores to 99 agility, chopping willows and yews to 99 woodcutting, and probably beyond, to then use those logs to get 99 firemaking and fletching. And don't even get me started on runecraft. 5k XP per hour crafting nature runes means it would be 2600 hours for 99 runecraft. That alone is like the same hours it takes for an inefficient player to max in osrs. Now, this is a progression server, so new methods will become unlocked over time. And while the live game will be updated the same way the RuneScape timeline was originally updated, it will not be following the same cadence. They're going to be grouping the updates together in batches and progressing the server forward in the RuneScape timeline 1 to 2 months at a time. However, for every month of content, it'll take a lot longer than 1 month of real time to develop. And in terms of this series I'm making, I was thinking like, say they spend 3 months to progress the game 1 month, I'll be waiting 3 months just to spend like 2 days testing and completing content and explaining how that new content fits into account progression at that point in history. And then I'll have to wait a few more months just to once again complete the content in a couple days. And I'm not complaining at all. I mean, I think it's very, very good that they're taking their time and that they're unwilling to give in to pressure from players to rush stuff out. I'm just saying it doesn't work well for my YouTube series. And yeah, I mean, I could just log in for 2 days every few months to make a vid and then that's it and log off. But for me, I get really into only one account at a time, and it's really easy for me to say now that I'll play it every few months, but when I'm into OSRS, it's going to be difficult for me to make random one-off videos on this account. And I feel, especially with a series like this, you need to keep the momentum going, and once it stops, it seems like it'd be really hard to get people interested in it randomly for one video every few months, because I've noticed YouTube viewers have really short attention spans and forget things easily. Not you, of course, I'm talking about all the other YouTube viewers. I don't know, I've had so much fun playing, and it's gonna be hard to say goodbye. Like, I really wish I could say, yeah, I'll come back and I'll do a series when they release 2005, because that's how I genuinely feel right now. But by the time 2005 gets released, I mean, we're talking so far in the future, potentially multiple years. Who knows what I'll be doing then? I mean, there's so many variables that could happen. Like, maybe there will be a league happening, or maybe I'll have just started a new OSRS series that I'm really into, or maybe I'll have stuff going on in my real life and I'll have to be away from YouTube for a few months. You know, like, there's so many possibilities. I can't say that I will be making more videos on this because I don't know. Knowing me, as soon as I get back to focusing on OSRS, I'll probably try to AFK 04 on the side, but because of the 90-second logout timer, I don't know how that's going to work out. The beautiful thing about RuneScape is that there's no right or wrong answers. What you want out of the game doesn't have to be what someone else wants to get out of the game. RuneScape has always been about setting your own goals and doing what's enjoyable to you. And the sandbox nature of the game is why so many people fall in love with it. No matter how much time you can play, whether it's 10 hours a day or 1 hour a week, you can always log in and make a bit of progress knowing that you're working towards a goal that you set for yourself. You never lose your progress no matter how long you're away from the game for, and as most of you know, you always come back. I think a big reason why the game is so appealing psychologically to so many people is that you can't really fail your goals. As long as you keep playing, eventually you will get that 99 or that quest cape or reach that total level milestone. And humans by nature don't like failure. I think that's why this game is so comforting to so many of us. You can do anything you want to in this game. It's especially true in 2004 since most goals require time and not skill. In old school, there's some things that just weren't meant to be done by everyone, like completing the collection log or getting the Zuck helm. But those are things most players wouldn't aim for anyway, and most people's goals in RuneScape are going to be time-based, no matter the era. It's this constant cycle of setting and completing goals that makes those brain receptors happy and wanting more. I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess for a long time I've been trying to figure out if RuneScape is special, because for the most part, it's the only game I've played my whole life. I'm not sure if I'm biased because it's all I know, or if it really is the best game that's ever been made, and there truly is something special that sets it apart from every other game. In my opinion, the most important thing that has always made RuneScape so great is the community. Having other players to trade with, socialize with, go bossing with, or even compete against, it's all such an important part of the experience. For many of us playing when we were kids, it was our first introduction to multiple real-life skills, which may sound silly to an outsider that's never played, but for many people that stuck with the game as a kid, RuneScape had a long-lasting impact to their real lives. We learned how to type and how to type fast by spamming at Varrock West. It was our first experience with investing, buying and selling items, trying to get the best deals. Some people even started businesses, hiring noobs to mine iron or kill chickens for them at a low cost to then resell the resources for hire. A lot of people improved their English or even completely learned English by playing RuneScape. Some of us made lifelong friendships that continue to this day, And some people have even found their partner through this game. And then, of course, we got scammed in so many ways. Swapping items out at the last second from the trade screen, luring people into the wildy, tricking people into taking damage, convincing them you can't say your password backwards, telly group to ice plateau, drop your items and press Alt F4, trimming armor, doubling GP, the list can go on and on. Being scammed is probably the most universal experience among RuneScape players. And again, I know it sounds silly, but getting scammed in RuneScape ended up being a formative experience for so many players that made them vigilant and wary of scams in their real lives to this day. This game means a lot to so many people, and they're very passionate about it. It gives us something to look forward to in life, even when there's nothing else. It's always been the one constant in our lives throughout moving cities, changing schools, new relationships, getting hired or fired, injuries and illnesses. Throughout all the good and bad times, it has always been the one constant, like a motherly hug always ready to welcome you with open arms every time you come home. That's why I love this game and why it's so important to recreate and preserve the lost years of RuneScape.